So locals do actually take the gondolas.
Yes. But
those.
It's not a pleasure gondola. It's
right.
like
it's
a
not,
service.
Okay.
No?
It's not the one with the red velvet seats and the music.
There's no velvet.
And
And the fun fact is that there are young gondoliers doing training and old gondoliers that they have drunk all the money they did. So you have this human interaction in the front and in the back of the gondola that they scream to themselves sometimes.
Oh, no.
And it's amazing. It's like being carried in a bus with a theater show.
Yeah, so there is entertainment.
Yes.
That's your entertainment.
The human side of Venice never betrays. Never.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is Italian for Sure, the podcast about Italian culture. I'm your host, Catrin Skaperdas, an American living in Italy, and I interview Italians who passionately share their wisdom, stories, and insights about Italian culture. Ciao, Federico. Welcome to Italian for Sure.
Ciao, Catrin. Grazie mille. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
Can you start by introducing yourself, including where you're from in Italy?
Okay, I'm nearby where we're recording in Milan. I'm from Varese, that is a small place, not so small. It's a small city with lakes, similar to Lake Como. There is Como and Varese. Okay. It's the not famous
Only
one.
2 lakes in Italy?
Yes.
That's not true.
No, that's not true, but it's near Como. I've been there until the high school, and then I moved to Venice to do university. And there I find a place in which I understood I would have loved to live in. And now I live in Venice, and my job became being one of the influencers speaking about the Venetian culture in a way of present, past, and maybe future of the city itself. I think this could be an introduction of myself.
It's a wonderful introduction. The first thing I think of when I think of Venice is attenzione borseggiatrici.
Pickpocket.
Pickpocket.
I see her around.
You do?
Yes.
So just for context, that is the viral sound on social media, I think primarily TikTok, where a woman goes around in Venice, I think a woman from Venice, and she calls out pickpocketers in the act of actually pickpocketing, or sometimes when they're kind of on the prowl and they're going around clearly about to pickpocket.
Yes, it's. I was living in Venice. I was in Venice when this audio started to get viral on TikTok, and it was strange because it was like living in the social. But you're used that the image of Venice are gondolas, Spritz, picture with the color of the water that is unreal, but it gets right for the socials. No, it's strange because it speaks about a problem of a city. At the same time, it doesn't speak about the city. No, but she's very good in the way she do it. No, because she repeat the sound very high pitch. No,
yes,
she tells a problem that many touristic cities have.
So you said you've seen her. Have you seen people get pickpocketed in Venice?
Yes, I did once. And it was quite shocking because obviously pickpocketers doesn't target residents or people that seem resident. No? And tourists are very well identified by backpack, bike wandering around. No? And I saw a woman fall on the street, an old woman, no? And she has a stick she was walking
cane.
with. And these 2 young lady, they seems to help her, but then I realized that one was opening the backpack of her, and the other one was with the feet taking the stick down. It was a kind of abuse on an old person by a young person. It was very aggressive.
That's very sad.
And so I went there. I said, "Was that for her?" No, and they moved. I stayed with the old lady that obviously was a bit shocked.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't recognize her apart if you are the one going around and say, "Attenzione pickpocket."
Exactly.
Because they're not dressed with a mark No,
Yeah.
so they dress as normal people, and no, they dress with the dress we used to buy. No,
With the clothes that are fairly
yes.
normal.
Yes.
And that was actually one of the things that was really shocking to me when I saw the videos was, how they looked and what they were wearing. Something that my parents taught me when I was young, which I appreciate the lessons, that the boogeyman, as we say, like a monster, doesn't always look like the monster. Because when we see, for example, children's shows or movies, they depict the bad guy, and it's usually guy. And that person is usually evil or ugly looking, or even if it's a woman, like if it's a witch, they usually depict them with large noses and they're green. And so you can easily identify them as the bad guy or the bad woman. And when I saw the pickpocketers, I was shocked, mostly because I'd never thought about, well, what does a pickpocketer look like? But they looked like me. And I think as when I was looking at the pickpocketers, looking at them saying they're young women that are dressed just like me. Someone could look at me and think I'm a pickpocketer. That was shocking. That was fairly shocking. So are they primarily women?
It depends. Because I know them by the videos on TikTok. Me too.
Okay.
I don't recognize them on the street, but I saw there are also guys doing this. There are mainly between 20s and 40s, I think. The fact that the aesthetic of good and evil doesn't match with the reality is something that I think we have to always remember, no?
It's a good life lesson.
But when I walk in crowded areas of Venice, I always move the position of my wallet in the front pockets. Because it would be very embarrassing to be Venetian and being pickpocketed.
I wouldn't tell anybody, don't worry.
It would be very embarrassing.
Which I wanted to talk about because as a foreigner, I was under the impression that there weren't even locals left in Venice, that it was only tourists and basically people who were in the business of tourism. So that was it. And I actually felt sad because I felt like, Venice was, I don't know if ruined is the right word, but taken from the locals and just kind of, used now for tourism. As somebody who lives there and has lived there, what's that like? Are there Venetian locals still? How many? And how do they feel about all the tourism?
It's a very complex argument. Like in all the touristic cities, more tourists you have, more the rent of the flat and the house value rise. Yeah. No? So also in Venice, you have this problem of this reality that we don't produce work. We just have passive economy. No?
Of tourism.
Yeah, that is tourism, yes. And we don't have factories or place in which a group of persons produce other value than not hotellerie, restaurants, and this kind of stuff. So it's complex because sometimes you hate tourists, mainly when they are a pack of people, not the single person. But you understand that without them, the city cannot live. It's like always to have a deal with the devil in a way.
From what I read online, tourism in Italy contributed 10.5% to Italy's economic output. And I wanted to ask you, is that low? Is that high? What do you think about beyond Venice in Italy in general, tourism?
Tourism, someone calls the oil of Italy, no? But something that is always related to this oil metaphor idea is an extraction. You doesn't produce value. That's the problem of tourism from my perspective. In Italy, we are losing all the big factories, all the big structures that makes jobs. No, so we are. It seems, from my point of view, that we're like grabbing our hopes to paying bills to the touristic sector, no? And we then this create a strange perception of ourselves as Italian, because we start to think Italy, our culture, our heritage, but it's made 500 years ago. when Italy was the center of the world, economically, with the shipments, with culture. And now we are not that things anymore. And we are not used to speak and to think about how can we become economically more
prosperous.
Yes. We are like seated on a sofa in which...
this right now, if you're watching on YouTube.
Yes, like this right now, but without the audio I hate that is viral on TikToks. That is, in Italy, we call it Dolce Vita. No? That is your father or your dad own the place and you don't have to worry about your salary. Because the Dolce Vita image is a rich perspective of Italy, and is a small percentage of the country itself. So it's interesting because I try to speak about this topic, and socials are always a great battlefield to test your
that comment section is probably going off with bombs.
Yes.
I mean, what is La Dolce Vita? Because I do see that all the time on social media. And often it's somebody who, it's so funny to me because they set up a camera to record themselves like sitting on a park bench doing nothing and saying, this is the sweet life of it's just doing nothing. I wonder if those people actually do nothing when they're not recording.
Yeah, sometimes things exist on socials and then you transmit them on reality, because in Italy we was not used to say we are doing Dolce Vita. We're just having free time.
Yeah.
No?
Like Italians don't say...
we don't say we're doing Dolce Vita. It's probably a cut from a movie.
Okay.
No? That became viral and then set a standard. But the Dolce Vita itself came from a famous movie that is a Fellini movie that is Dolce Vita, in which there is the Marcello Mastroianni taking this American actress, blonde American actress in the 50s. It's a black and white movie. And taking her around the laziness and pleasure of Rome. Okay. And there's this very famous scene in which she walks into the Trevi fountain now and say, Marcello, come here. This is the most famous. No, I think that settled the idea of how you have to spend your free time in Italy when you come in Italy. So that's the Dolce Vita. But mainly now it's your father, your grandfather own a factory, bought a house on the lake, an amazing place, and now your parents doesn't know anymore how to pay for the property because the factory does not exist anymore. But you do videos on it
and talk about Dolce Vita. Yes. Okay. How do I get that job?
I don't know. You have to marry an Italian with properties.
Then, if it's not how Italians actually live, this image of Dolce Vita, what's a typical day for an Italian? I guess specifically, what's a typical day for someone who lives in Venice?
A typical day, it's quite hard to say because it's so typical day that you never thought about to describe it, right? But I tell you my normal day. I wake up and in the windows, I open the windows of my bedroom and down, I'm first floor. Outside in the calle, I look in the street and there's always the same guy, Alberto, unpacking the boxes of fruit for the supermarket I live on.
Okay.
No? So my day starts with this human interaction, joking about vegetables, about the weather.
You yell out of the window like,
yes.
Ciao, Alberto.
Sì. Albi, come va? Ah, Fede, bene. This is very nice.
I love it so much.
The only things missing is the basket.
I was going to say with the string, the basket and the string. I saw it my first time was in Naples. Do you do it? Do you?
I have a friend that she's on the 4th floor, and when there was the situation in which we forgot the keys or something, we don't go up. She just
drops the basket.
She dropped the basket, but we don't use so much,
Okay.
but it's nice to have the idea of doing it.
I mean, I have seen it a lot in Naples. Like there are people, mostly elderly people I notice that do it. And then it's easier for them if somebody helps them by sending them groceries in their basket that they pull up, or
yes, because you don't have to move. You cut out the movement, and that's nice.
Yeah.
And so a normal life in Venice is a human interaction in the street. That is something so easy but so rich. No, I just lost a neighbor.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you, but it was the crazy old man living on the floor up mine. No, and I used to meet him on the staircase. And when I get in, and he always have some jokes. When I get in the door, he was maybe at the end of the street. He saw that I was getting the main door, and he said, "Lascia la porta aperta." Like
leave the door open.
No, keep the door open. Without saying keep the door. Well, porta aperta. No?
You just knew.
Yes. And so you build relations on the human need on the connection, the human connection. And that's very, very nice.
It's very Italian. I mean, it's something I noticed immediately here was how the towns are built around squares. And everybody gathers in the squares. And I mean, it's so... for me, it's like a picture when I go and I see dogs running, even off leash, and there's, kids running around, of course, playing soccer. And someone's, if it's, warm weather, someone's having a gelato and everyone's just talking and everyone meets in the square. I mean, is that still the case in Venice?
Yes, it is. And this squares idea is one of the great inventions that Italy gave to the world, not the square itself, but the shape of the city. The shape of the city. And because now we live in a time in which the city has a totally different shape. You have districts with different sectors, no? But until 18th century, 1900, the cities were small, the 15 minutes districts in which you can walk in and have everything in it. No, it was a kind of cell of the body. No, the city is a whole body made with different cells, and in Venice you see it very clearly because each island, because the city itself, there are bridges because there are islands. No, it's a connection of bridges and islands. But each island has its own square. And the square inside, they have a well for the water. They have the church. That is the place in which the community gather. They have the tower bell. That is the timing of the community. That in Venice is not connected to the church because Venetian knew that we don't have to give to the church the control of time. The state owns it. No? They were very, very wise. And then you have the palace of the noble. That is the guy putting the money of the production, no?
Like building the town.
They building the town. They used to build the churches, for example. And the square is the place in which all the people gather for doing a sellings market. But there are pictures of you wash the jeans and then you need a space to dry them, no? There are pictures of long line in the squares of Venice, in which people used to
hang their clothes.
Yes.
In the square.
In the square.
That's amazing.
Yes.
We're talking a lot about community in Venice, and I think that it's unique that Venice doesn't have cars. And there's a seaside town in the region of Liguria that I love because of that exact reason. It's along the sea, but the town is actually on the sea, where a lot of other towns I've noticed that there's the town, then the road, then the sea. And it's really unique because, especially for kids, I think it's really nice. They can run around without worrying, and you can go get a focaccia and gelato and whatever, and you don't need to worry about crossing the street. How's that like in Venice?
It's amazing. the most simple answer is it's amazing. Because you feel, I coming from nearby Milan, I was used to drive my scooter, drive my car, moving fast between a place and another. The pleasure of moving also without moving legs for doing it. No, then when you go to live to Venice, you start to think differently because each movement you do, it's made with your feet. And so you start to think with friends. It's interesting when you start to do it. You know, when you go in another place, in another country, and there's a night in which you start to dream in the language of the new country.
No, I wish. When will I start dreaming in Italian? Please, I've been learning for 2 years.
Okay, one day will happen.
One day it will happen.
That
All right.
you will start to dream
I'll
in
text
Italian.
you on that day.
Oh, text me, please. And I did in London when I was there. I remember what the day after. Woo! And in Venice, the same is related to the day you start to think about in how many minutes you spend to go from a place to another, but not like 5, 10, 20, 7, 9, 13.
Wow.
No, you start to be precise about how much time, like for example, train station is 9 minutes, walking fast. With the trolley, 12. It's a way to save energies and time and it's interesting. So also that you gain a relation with the people on the street, because I lived in Milan and in London, and London, human interaction, it's quite hard. But in Milan, that is always Italy, it's hard to refer having Venice as an example, because when you get out your house and you get out of a private space, you cross the street and you get inside another private space that is your car. So the interaction with another human persona doesn't have much time. In Venice, you're obliged. So if you imagine we two live in Venice and we had a very strong fight between about something, no? About, I don't know what, about tourism, about...
my region is better than your region.
Yes, that's it. Well, Venice is better than the place of Liguria, you said. Like this kind of stuff, no? And we hate each other after 6 months that each morning we meet on the street, because we do the same street. You in one side, in one direction, me in the other one. We started to say... with the eyes.
Okay, because
first, you start with the eyes.
You just look at each other with the eyes. Okay.
Look at each other.
From the side.
You look from the side.
Little side eye.
Then the side look, it becomes a straight looking. Okay. No? And then you start to say hi. And then the day could pass by and you start to say, oh, we can take 6 months after, you take a coffee. And so the
conflict resolution just happens because you are just passing each other on the street.
Perfect synthesis.
So
that's the thing.
That's amazing. And you had mentioned to me, outside of this conversation, that ciao is a Venetian word.
Yeah. Ciao is a Venetian word that means I'm your slave. Like in a way, servitude was a gesture, was an offer. No, in Italy you say schiavo for slave. Mm-hmm. Ciao is a way to shorten in a Venetian dialect schiavo.
So we're all going around saying a shortened version of slave when we say
I'm your slave.
Hi?
That is the highest way to tell to another person that you are at his disposal. That's
very interesting.
Yes.
I wonder how many Italians know that as they're going around saying ciao all day long.
It's those things that you use and you don't know how they are built, no? But I'm your slave was one of the highest way to offer yourself.
That's wild. I'm going to go back to America and instead of saying hi, I'm going to say I'm your slave and see what happens. That's crazy. Yeah. You mentioned Venice not having cars, but I know that they have gondolas and other types of boats.
Yes.
Tourists love to take gondolas when they go to Venice. And I'm wondering, do locals take gondolas?
Allora, gondolas are very used by the tourist sector, no? Also because Gondoliers doesn't give you free tour if you're a resident, no? So it's like the chariot with the horses in Central Park or outside the Colosseum in Rome, that kind of stuff. But they were the limousine of the nobles of Venice.
In the past,
until the end of 18th century, 1700, 1700. And each family has his own gondolier. So when when the Noblery fall with the Republic of Venice and we get in the Italian Republic, this gondolier had new customers, no, with tourists. And it's something interesting that it's a new thing I learned about the city, was that the city was very poor, Venice itself, and until the tourism arrived, and the big mass tourism in the 90s, in the 2000s. And in the 50s, there was a lot of people doing small thieves, and they steal. You take your pants outside to dry, and they steal it.
Oh wow!
No? Because they don't have a job.
Okay.
And
they needed the pants. It was more. It's not just like someone who wants to steal from you. They
need it, or maybe they take it and they sell it to buy some food.
No? Yeah. Okay.
So there was a poverty problem, and the Comune decide to give to those people the gondola jobs.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's why gondoliers are not the most intellectual people of the city.
Not anyone can just become a gondolier?
Yes, you can, but it's a very close enclave. It's a very close group. No, I don't know how is to get in. There's a license you have to buy. That's an interesting fact about gondoliers and gondolas. That is a job that answered to a poverty problem in the past. Now we use it just to cross the canal, the great canal, the Grand Canal, because we just have 3 bridges crossing Grand Canal. There are gondolas like in the Divina Commedia of Dante. There is the moment in which the dead people are carried into the hell by a big boat with a guy rowing.
Yes.
No? And so there is this long gondolas for 12 people in which you cross the canal for 70 cents.
So locals do actually take the gondolas.
Yes. But
those.
It's not a pleasure gondola. It's
right.
like
it's
a
not,
service.
Okay.
No?
It's not the one with the red velvet seats and the music.
There's no velvet.
And
and the fun fact is that there are young gondoliers doing training and old gondoliers that they have drunk all the money they did, or they buy drug with all the money they did. So you have this human interaction in the front and in the back of the gondola that they scream to themselves sometimes. And it's amazing. It's like being carried in a bus with a theater show.
Yeah, so there is entertainment.
Yes.
That's your entertainment.
The human side of Venice never betrays. Never.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So speaking of entertainment and things that you do for fun in Venice, I was told that Spritz are from Venice. Speaking of like aperitivo, for example, people go out to have a drink with their friends. Is that true?
Yes. The legend says that during the Austrian domination, when Venice fell as a republic, there was a ping pong between French and Austrians. And the legend says that Austrians cannot afford to drink the strong wines of Venice. So they used to add water in it. And the noun Spritz is a verb in German or Austrian language. It means add things. And so to spritzen was when you see someone doing spritz, you put Aperol or Campari or other things. They should be red, kind of. And then you put soda maybe, and they do. So the spritz is a kind of it tells about a noun. It's a noun telling about a sound, but also the fact that you add to a main drink that is diluted.
Yeah, diluted
with something else. And it was Aperol was created in Padova at the start of the century,
which is close to
yes, it's
Venice.
40 minutes from Venice, and it was a very famous aperitivo. It became in Italy we have this boom of the aperitivi in last century. But then Aperol did an amazing marketing investment, and Spritz became famous because Aperol invested so much in this advertisement of Aperol Spritz. You're used to say Aperol Spritz.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Because they were the ones spending in advertisement of
For the
Spritz.
Spritz.
Because when I arrived in Venice, the Spritz costed €1.50, €2. But when I used to come back in my place near Milan, no one knew about Spritz. So I have to tell to the bartender to the person of the bar, how to produce a Spritz. And they used to make me pay as a cocktail, while it was not. And this was 2005, 2006. Also in Italy, outside Venice, you didn't know anything about Spritz. But then Aperol pushed a lot in a TV. And now all the world knows about Spritz.
Yeah, it's crazy. Everybody drinks Spritz. And I'm actually not sure. I mean, do Italians really drink Spritz? Because in my experience with the people that I know, most people drink wine more than not. I know, of course, people drink beer or cocktails or other things, but more often than not, it's wine. Whereas the Spritz is very clear to me when it's a table full of tourists and they're eating it like with their meals, which I know is that you can tell me, like, I don't think it's Italian to drink a cocktail with your meal.
No, we're not used to it.
Okay.
No, we're not used
But do Italians order Spritz then? Like,
yes, we
maybe
do.
for aperitivo? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do a lot. If you want to be a bit more chic, you say a Spritz with not Aperol, not Campari, maybe other things. But when you see a table with pizzas and Spritz, you immediately understand that they're not resident.
Yeah. And speaking of pizza, there are no pizza ovens allowed in Venice. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's an interesting thing because the city itself is made, half of the city is made of wood. All the horizontal structures of the building are made of wood. The fire was one of the most ancient nightmare of Venetians. So first, they moved the glass production to another island, that is Murano.
Right.
To eliminate the problem of fire from the glass production.
That's why it moved
That's why
there.
it's an island.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Then they take out the permit to switch on the fire in your house, in the chimney, in the
fireplace.
Fireplace, yes.
The place where there is fire. I know English is very
sometimes it's more easy than what
poetic.
You think as an Italian. Yeah. And also the pizza, the oven itself should be with electricity or yes, I think electricity or gas, but you cannot have pizza with
fire.
pieces of
wood.
Food.
Like wood set on fire.
Yeah.
Fire, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I know, I think even in Milan, actually, fireplaces are illegal now, which stinks because I do like fireplaces, but I understand it. So it stinks, but I understand it. Basically, for the sake of helping people who are coming to Italy and hoping to have the best pizza of their lives, because that's all they ever hear is that pizza is from Italy.
Yeah.
I've heard people be disappointed because they come and maybe they're in Venice and they're like, I got the pizza and it really wasn't that good. And my response to is, well, you weren't getting it in the right place. Go to Naples if you're looking for the best pizza.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Is that fair to say? Like, truly, it's like, if you're in Venice, don't get a pizza. I mean, there's so many great dishes that are Venetian and that
in each region in Italy has its own typical recipes. No? Now we have, as Italy, a word image of pizza, pasta, tomato sauce. We usually know that people add mafia and mandolino. No?
To the list of stereotypical things. Yeah.
No? And mustaches that I have. But we are not used to have it in Italy. But each region has its own typical food. And is a kind of proudness that if you speak badly about it, it's like you're insulting the mother of the guy offering him food. It's very interesting because more Italy became poor, more Italians are attached to the cuisine tradition. Because it's something that first does not, like for the carbonara, for example, no? And there was in the 80s, you can do a carbonara that is eggs, bacon, and Parmesan cheese.
But it's not bacon, guanciale. No, come on.
Yes. But until the 2000, there was no guanciale.
Oh.
Until 2000, you can add the panna in it.
You can add cream.
Cream.
Because that's always the tell of, if it's authentic or not,
But that authenticity fact
You're saying, okay,
is
I get it.
freezing something just, no?
Like
just a people you love that you don't want to die, that you want to be dead, no? So you froze it, no? But one of the best chefs of Italy, that is Marchesi, Gualtiero Marchesi, in the 90s, he did carbonara with cream.
Wow.
And in the guanciale, it's happened in the last 15 years. We used to have bacon, squared pieces of bacon, the one that you buy in the supermarket.
You are blowing my mind.
Yes. So there is this crystallization of this fake idea of how the food in Italy is, that is very interesting, because anthropologically speaks about the fears of Italian, the Italians frightened by future kind of.
Right. It's something that they can control. Like you can take away, I don't know, now you mentioned before, you've turned to tourism maybe because you stopped producing things. And so the economy looks different, but you cannot take away our tradition of food, the quality of the food, our recipes, and people love them and know that they're, amazing.
And it's a cat hitting his own tail, because for tourism, you have to produce an image that entertain the customer, no? So you start to crystallize your own image of yourself. But then when you're used to it, you forget it, you build it, that image, and you start to believe that image is reality. So it's a kind of loop in which at the end we will not produce anything new, because we will be attached. There was an article in New York Times saying Italians are so focused on their tradition that they're not producing anything new. A very short, no? But it's interesting.
I've heard that, though, that Italians look back. And I don't know, countries, I guess, like the US, they look really forward. And I don't say that as like one is good and one is bad. I think there could be a middle ground.
Yes, totally. A country more focused on future is a country that probably has a kind of economy.
Could you tell us the story of how carbonara came to Italy?
It's a recipe from American soldier coming in Italy during
yes, I've
war.
heard this. So they missed eggs and
They have egg and bacon. There's a great historian I follow on Instagram that is have his own podcast, and he spoke that carbonara arrived in Italy with American soldiers during the campaign of Italy, no, from Sicily taking Italy from the south to the north, and that these soldiers have eggs and bacon. It was a very effective way to give energies and taste to an army cuisine, no? Then we took it and we built our narrative as Italians, no? But also the myth of pizza, it's amazing. And the myth of pasta and the myth of tomato sauce come from the American Italians.
I haven't heard that one.
Yes, it's
but that's a myth. The carbonara you think is true.
No, it's true.
The carbonara is true. The myth of the tomato sauce in
because
pasta.
The image of Italy that America has as a leading cultural country is created by the Italian community there. Mm-hmm. And in Italy, no one used to have pizzas in the 50s, in the 40s, no? But this idea of the pizza was so powerful. And we had a very big immigration in US, no? There are Greeks, there are Italians, there are people from all over the world. And when they came back, they took things that there worked, no? And pasta was from Naples, and were one of the fascists used to fight the spaghetti. They don't want the Italians have pasta because it was seen as a kind of American Italian food. They used to say that the true Italian doesn't eat pasta. It's a dish for someone that has his mommy cooking for him.
What?
Yes, that's mind blowing. And I know we have to move on other topics, but it's the tradition of food is like a carpet. And down this carpet, there's a lot of things that controvert the perception of reality. It's
we
amazing.
need to have a whole nother episode about this.
So
oh my goodness.
So that's thing.
Wild.
That's wild. That's wild.
You know so many fun facts about Italy and about Venice. And you have this Instagram page and it's called Il Viaggio di Scoperta.
Yes.
Okay. The journey of discovery.
Yeah.
I think that's so fun. So you have this page, it's in Italian, and you talk about things you've discovered, particularly in Venice, right? What have been your most interesting discoveries about Venice?
The most interesting discovery is a story of a palace on the Grand Canal that lean a bit, but all the facade is in marble and is a very famous building because it's so rich, but it's one of the few. It's the only palace that just each palace of Venice has the name of the family, no? But there's not only one palace. There are like 8 palaces with the same surname. That palace has only that name, that is Dario, Cadario. This palace is very well known because 3 or 4 people that own the palace itself died very badly.
Like they were murdered?
Murdered or something, no, like there's a dark history of this palace, no?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So you have this very rich and small and a bit lean palace with this dead person in it.
You will never find me in the side of there ever. If I ever go missing, the one place you don't have to look is inside of there.
And so the tradition, the storytelling of this palace is this one. But one day I started to study this palace because on the palace itself, there's a written, there are words written in the basement that is Ioannes Dario Urbigenio. That means Giovanni Dario, no surname, to the genius of the city. So I started to dig historically, no? And what I learned is that this guy was the guy that signed the peace between Venice and the Ottomans that just conquered Constantinople and made Istanbul in 1453. Constantinople was in Turkey, where it is now. It was the last Roman city. It was the last imperial city. The Roman Empire was founded about Augusto and fall in 1453, technically for Europeans, no? When the Ottomans Turks took Constantinople, no? And Venice has a lot of merchants there. It was a merchant square, one of the biggest of the Mediterranean. All the trades of Venice, the first market of Venice. Venice took the things in Constantinople and then resell. And so when Turks took the city, Venice lost its main merchant base. And so that was a nightmare, because Venice was all in that part of the Mediterranean. When the power changed here, Venetian lost all the trades agreement, and they became enemy of the Turks that conquer Constantinople. No, in fact, Constantinople, that is the name, the city of Constantino, an emperor, became Istanbul, that is a Turkish noun. And in that moment, they lost the first market of where they take the goods to resell in Europe. So they send this Giovanni Dario without saying, man, take everything the Sultan says. We just have to reopen trades. But he came back with an amazing agreement. And the Senato of Republic was so shocked happily by the result of this guy that gave him money, title, and the title of Savior of the Republic. No? Salvatore della città, Salvatore della Repubblica. With that money, he built that palace, and with the richest facade he can. That having a marble facade is one of the richer things now. We know when we have to paint houses. And he put on the basement, on the Canal Grande, that is the main status place of all the city, he inscript Giovanni Dario Urbigenio, that means Giovanni Dario to the soul of the city, but the traduction is Thank You Venice by Giovanni Dario. Venetian, they had 20 years of war to try to make this agreement. And Dario was the single negotiator that closed the deal. And closing the deal, Venice could be again the reseller of all the goods coming from that part of the world to Europe. And so taking again economic breath. No?
Okay. So we like Dario.
Yeah. And that's the story of that building.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
It's a monument of a busy street in an historic time, in a singular, it's the fall of the last Roman piece of empire.
That was
I
your
did a
biggest
video
story.
4 minutes, very well said.
In Italian.
Not like this today.
I understand. Any other discoveries of Venice that you want to share?
Galileo Galilei. Galileo is the guy that said to the church and to the Europe of that time, 15th century, 16th century, I don't remember. Guys, the earth is round and the sun doesn't turn around the earth, but the earth turn around the sun. No? And this guy was a teacher in the Padova University, no, that was inside the Venetian dominion. To discover these things, he produced the cannocchiale, that is the telescope. And when he invented it, he went to Venice to show it to the government. And they went on the tower bell of San Marco, no, that is the tallest tower of the city, and he showed the instrument itself. But it never said that it was for looking the stars. He sold to the government for looking how far the other ships was.
Oh, wow.
No?
They were more interested in that than learning about the planets.
Yes.
Okay.
And after that, Venetian, they were marketers and entertainers. They, for 1 or 2 months, I don't remember how much, on each tower bell of the city, there was a telescope. You can pay a coin and look like we are doing today in cities all around.
Wow, that was because of him.
Yes.
That is very interesting.
No, that's a fun fact of Venice. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fede, for all the wonderful information that you shared today on the podcast.
Thank you for the time.
Is there any last words you'd like to share before we go?
Yeah, maybe an advice when people decide to come to Venice. No, the main advice is take time to see the city, because if you see the city running, like one day and then go to Milan and then go to Florence, that I understand that is a kind of way to do Italy. You lose the human experience of the city. That's the thing.
The Ciao on the street.
The Ciao, the humanity of Ciao.
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
I understand. It's also great advice for traveling anywhere in the world, I think. Yeah, if you have the time, of course, and resources to do
less places, more time in each of those, in few of them.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. Great advice. Thank you so much, Fede, for joining Italian for Sure.
Thank you too for having me. Ciao.
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 This is Italian for Sure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Italian for Sure. If you liked what you heard, make sure to hit the follow button wherever you listen to podcasts, and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you want to connect, find me on Instagram and TikTok at Italian for Sure, and let me know what you found most interesting. Until next time.